Good morning. Welcome to this. Are we ready? Is that? So we're a little slow today, and I am a little slow today. And so, yes, Ryan's signals have to be a little more obvious. Good morning to the CSLDallas Science of Mind class. And, life's been interesting all over. All right, so we are finishing up this conversation on the top of page one. We talked a little bit about, the Christ and the Antichrist, and these are not terms that we really use anywhere in the science of mind, other than in this particular chapter. Ernest Holmes is trying to help us understand that the law is automatic and it is impersonal, and remember, it can only do deductive reasoning, so it cannot inquire into the truthfulness of what is being set in motion. And so when it is used not in alignment with the way life is moving, destructive things can be the result. And that's why we're very careful about doing spiritual mind treatment and spiritual work for people if we don't actually know specifically what it is that they are interested in. This is particularly important when we're thinking about our children and our spouses, who we are certain ought to be doing or behaving or having or something, right? And because spiritual work does work, and so we do our best to make sure that as we are manifesting for our own lives, that it is ultimately, to the best of our ability, not only good for us, but good for others. Now, 70% probably, I'm making that number up, but I'm thinking 70% really have no impact on somebody else. What, clothes you go out and buy, or how you choose to spend your vacation time, or, lots and lots and lots of decisions that you make really are very personal, and they are, maybe decisions that you talk over with a spouse or with friends or with colleagues, but in general, right, it's pretty much innocuous. It's just living life, your own life. But there are decisions that we make and ways in which we activate the law that do have impact. And so we're always trying to pay attention to, and as closely as possible, align ourselves with the trajectory of life itself, with that impulse, that spiritual impulse of life to create and to become. There's this idea that we can't go against the mind of the divine, that we can't go against life. And this is both true and not true, right? We can't go against life and somehow act outside of the law of cause and effect. We cannot remove ourselves from the law of cause and effect. We can't do an affirmation or spiritual work and say, I'm no longer subject to the law of cause and effect. Therefore, I can do anything. And we simply cannot do that because we can't get outside of the nature of reality, right? And so, but what we can do is we can misuse the law, misdirect it with our faulty beliefs about what makes life valuable. So, for instance, we can, in fact, take things, we can make things, accomplish things that impact other people negatively. And so we're constantly trying to pay attention to that. We cannot destroy the way the law works, nor, as he says on the top of page 121, nor are we immune from malpractice. Right? Because there's a law of cause and effect, we do understand that life is always moving in a particular direction, and the law of cause and effect, when we cause things that are destructive or harmful, do at some point that does work out in such a way that very thing comes around and impacts us as well. Right? That's the quote unquote punishment It's not like somebody said, oh, you're bad, you did this thing and you're bad and therefore you have to be punished. But the law of cause and effect does play itself out. And so if we are continually seeking things that are harmful or things that are so self-centered that we don't take any consideration of how it impacts other people, that is going to play itself out in our lives. Maybe not that we're negatively impacted in exactly the same way, but the law of cause and effect does play itself out. So we may find ourselves later in life alone because we've driven everybody else away. Because we were so self-centered in everything we did. I have personal experience of this with a number of parental figures in my life and my spouse's life. And the harm or the what should we say? Well, to a certain extent, the very nature of being so utterly self-centered in all the decisions and all the conversations and all the ways in which life played out. And at the end of life, everybody was gone. And so we don't have to be the ones to try to figure out how that is going to outpicture. But no one is immune to the malpractice of the law. And that's partly how our spirit is educated, right? That's how we're educated. Our choices are educated. We may think it's going to have a good result, and then when we discover, oh wait, that wasn't quite the result we were anticipating, or yes, that was the result, but it had these other impacts. I mean, just look at climate today. Look at the trash in the ocean, right? Thought plastic was the best thing since sliced bread. No more rusty steel. Things would last forever. Well, that's the problem. They last forever. So that's the end. That's the result. And then the result of our cultural norm of convenience. And we want everything to be easy. So get one bottle, drink it, throw it away. Next bottle, drink it, throw it away. What? You mean I have to go back and get the bottle refilled? Well, that's inconvenient, right? So then we have single-use plastic and single-use plastic bags. And the unintended consequence, the ancillary result, not paying attention to the fact that that was having consequences, choosing convenience and profit over the consequence. Those consequences have gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until they are unavoidable and are now having serious effect with the fact that microplastics are everywhere, right? You and I have microplastics in our blood, in our brain. They're absolutely everywhere. And at some point, humanity as a whole, our nation and other nations, are going to have to take responsibility for the choices, do you see, that outpictured in all the good that plastic has done and all the negative consequences. And we are educated then. Is profit the only way to make a decision? Is convenience the best way to make a decision? How do we make decisions culturally as humanity? Exactly the same kinds of questions we have to ask ourselves. How do we make decisions? How do we make decisions that impact our spouse, our family? Do we take them into consideration? Do we give and take, or do we just dictate, right? This is how our choices are being educated. And this is the way the infinite discovers the way in which choice operates. And we have the freedom to do that, right? We have the freedom to choose things that will, in the end, have some negative consequence. And then we get to see that and make whatever decisions about that we choose. So that's the fact that no one is immune from the malpractice of using the law, which is why when we're doing things that we are not 100% sure about, or maybe we're not certain what the outcome or unintended consequences might be. A lot of people add into their spiritual mind treatments or into their spiritual work the directive or the container and that which is in highest and best good for all concerned. Or knowing that life is guiding this process, so that anything that needs to be revealed or known is known. There's lots of ways in which we can take all of that into consideration as we are doing our spiritual work.
Could you say that one line again? The highest and best good
for all concerned, right? Because we don't always know what that is. And yet we want to be in the trajectory of life being for life. And so those are the things that then cause it to be maybe slightly different than we thought it was going to be. Maybe it's not that specific way that we thought it was going to be. But we're trusting that any surprise or any unintended, coincidence that happens or some new way that it shows up is actually because we have made sure that it is the highest and best good for all concerned. Not just, bam, I want this no matter what, I don't care how it lands on anybody else. And the more that we do that, the more that becomes the habitual norm with which we move in the world. Eventually, we don't always have to say that because that's so embedded in our consciousness that we would never expect a manifestation to be anything less than good for all concerned. Now, again, that is the highest good from some spiritual point of view. Doesn't mean we always like it, right? Doesn't mean other people always like it. We don't like change. We don't always like for things to not go exactly the way we thought they were, or so it's not what shall we say? It doesn't mean it makes everything smooth and easy by any means, right? But it means that we are in integrity. We're doing what we need to do to stay in integrity to the best of our ability with spiritual truth and having the law be in support of spiritual alignment, right? That we're in alignment with the qualities of life being for life unfolding. So these are things that we play with and begin to become aware of as we are doing our spiritual work. And of course, we do our meditation work and we do our receptive spiritual work, which is, of course, the other side of the work that we're doing to manifest. We're doing the receptive spiritual work to help us sense alignment, to help us sense the presence of love, joy, peace, to help us experience it and bring ourselves into alignment with that, so that we're both receptive and directive in our spiritual work and our spiritual understanding of the nature of reality. It's not just all manifest, nor is it all, just receive, right? It's this dynamic dance between the two. So this becomes the outpicturing of our life, right? And so we move on then to the idea that we have an experience of the physical universe. This is the little section on unity. Our teaching is that human beings actually have a body, that we actually have a subjective life, and that we actually are spirit. Body, soul, and spirit represent a point where individuality is accentuated in universality. Ooh, man, there's a mouthful, right? Individuality is accentuated in universality. This is where we understand that the universe, the infinite nature of the universe, being universal, can't actually experience itself as anything other than a whole, a oneness, right? And so it chooses to individuate so that it can experience all of the different, unique, individual ways that an infinite reality can, in fact, express itself, right? Not just through human beings, but all the individual types of flowers and animals and plants on this planet, and then all the planets in this galaxy, and all the galaxies in this universe, and all the multiverses, right? I mean, it's an infinite number of ways that an infinite reality can express itself. And so it's constantly doing that through the individuation process. And in us, we are one of the probably a billion places, but we're one place that we know of that can actually turn around and look at that, right? And can see that, examine that, try to understand that. Just as we've been trying to understand, first of all, religiously through the nature of God or the divine, then through science, the nature of physical reality, then through psychology, the nature of our own individual human psyche. And then we realize that for 10,000 years, people have been trying to put all of this together and understand the nature of reality as a whole. And we're a place in the universe where that consciousness, where that ability is revealing itself. We're becoming conscious of the fact that we're conscious. And so this is how we begin to understand this idea that there is a unity, there's a wholeness, there's a oneness that we're a part of. And so this is where we begin to press upon our idea that we have a relationship with God, right? So a relationship implies two things, and with implies the other thing besides ourself, a relationship with God. Now, the caveat, we're constantly having to make the caveat. Our language is designed to catalog, categorize, and separate, so that we can point to a chair and a person and recognize that and speak about them as two different things, right? Our language is necessary. Our language is also designed to describe the space-time continuum. So it is designed for duality in the pairs of opposites. It's designed for spatial references and references in time. And this is why, again, the meditation, the mystical experience is so important, because it is in the experience of that we recognize what our words are pointing to. So the old Buddhist saying, right, don't look at the finger pointing at the moon, follow the finger to the moon. The finger isn't the moon. We have the same issue with our words. Right? So we use the word relationship with God, and we're constantly having to press upon the fact that not to be fooled that these are two separate things, or that we're humanity here and this spiritual reality is somewhere out there, and it's our job to bridge the gap, as if there were a gap between these two things. That's called duality. Science of mind is a radical monism. Everything is part of the whole. Everything is part of the whole, including creation, including us, including our minds, which is part of the one mind, including our whole experience of life, which is part of the one creation, and our ability to use the law, which is the law of the universe, right? And so this oneness, this wholeness, we have to continually play with, how do we understand it? How do we grasp this when our language is so designed to actually speak about these things as separate things? So when I was in practitioner training, I had a lovely, brilliant, wonderful minister, Reverend Ernie Forks. Oh my God. And he was a big teddy bear of a man. He was huge and black, and he loved nothing more than to give us hugs. And his hugs were so amazing. And then we got into practitioner training. And every one of our spiritual mind treatments came back with a red X. Duality, duality, duality. You can't say that. You can't say that. What do you mean by that? Duality. It was like, wait, what happened to this big teddy bear of a man? Oh my God. But I will never forget it. A solid year of being forced to find ways to think about, speak about metaphors and to find a way around the limitation of language that we could that we could express this unique, what Ernest Holmes calls a dual unity. That we are not human beings seeking to bridge the gap. We are, in fact, individualized expressions of the infinite, and we are moving as individuals in form. We were not allowed to use child of God, relationship with God. The number of things we were not allowed to use because what he was trying to do was pop us out of this old idea that I'm a human being and I have to become spiritual. I'm a human being, I'm merely human, and I have to access this spiritual reality. If this unity is in fact true, if this oneness is in fact real, it's already here. It's already here, it's already who we are. And our unique way of expressing it is through our humanness, like the macrocosm, the transcendent mysteries, it is through the universe, through creation as a whole. That is the universe's clothing, and our humanity and our human body and our human experience is the clothes that this individuated expression of that is wearing. So let's stop there. Ooh, man. So even the title of this whole chapter, man's relationship, let's see what it's actually called. I know it's at the top of each page. It says man's relationship. Man's relationship to the spiritual universe, right? And so even, it's challenging. And so that's why this next section that we're talking about is so important. So let's stop there. We have a comment in the back. We're going to say hello to Ryan, and then we're going to get going.
Yes, well, good morning to you, Dr. Petra.
Good morning.
Good morning to everybody here in the room. For the folks, I'm waving my hand to, if you can see me. You will be on camera, so FYI, if you don't want to be on camera but still ask questions, you can move over here to the left. And I never forget about the people here to my left. So I know everybody too. I'm so grateful that you guys are here with us. And for all of the folks that are joining us via Zoom and on Facebook Live all around the globe, we're so happy you're with us today as well. And for the folks who are joining us in Zoom, go ahead and hit the raise your hand icon, and we can bring your question into the room, or you can always put it in the chat as well. And for those who are joining us on Facebook Live, the same goes true for you. Make sure to check in, tell us where you're watching us from, and put your questions or comments, and I can bring that into the room as well. I don't have a lovely assistant today, so I do need some help with a little bit of a microphone. So just make a friend and pass the mic along as you see somebody's hand get raised. So go ahead, Gordon, say your name and what your question is.
My name's Gordon. First off, awesome outfit you have on.
Oh, thank you. I'm a little tired. I'm doing what's called dopamine dressing.
Well, you picked a great outfit. Second, it reminded me, I read something recently that said that the only time Jesus asked God to help him was when he wanted in the Garden of Gethsemane, when he didn't want to carry that burden anymore. The rest of the time, he didn't ask. He demanded. He knew that he had the power, and he just voiced it. I don't know about anybody else in the room, but from what you were describing about that practitioner training, can you just give us an example of what you were talking about, that he used to put a red X on whatever you said?
Yes.
And then turn around and you said something different.
Yes. So in a spiritual mind treatment, right, the second step of a spiritual mind treatment is remembering that we are part of that wholeness, right? So the first step of a spiritual mind treatment is speaking truth about the nature of reality. Because our spiritual work is based on the nature of reality. It's not just based on something we think and hope and wish and dream. So we spend a little time remembering the nature of reality. And then in the second step, we say, I'm one with that. Okay, well, I'm one with that also implies that and I are two things. It's red X over the with. I'm one as that. That one is me. I'm a child of God, red X. I'm an individualized expression of the one.
Acceptable.
Right? I am building my relationship with Spirit. Rad X. I am discovering the truth of who I am as the infinite revealing itself as me. Do you see the difference? Oh my God, it was painful. and that's the work. Do you see the language creates the narrative through which we see ourselves? And if we're using language of separation, that is demonstrating how we see ourselves. And so this is why in Science of Mind we press on the words. Not so that you can be precise and therefore correct, but so that we can find the ways to express it that allow us to stand in a new place. Do you see, being the identity of a child of God is very different than the identity of an individualized expression. I'm a place where Spirit is showing up in the world is very different than I have a relationship with God and I'm a child of the one who is going to do what? Help me, fix me, take care of me. Do you see? And so we press upon the language to shift the patterns in our brain that create the visuals and the beliefs and the feelings of what we sense is true. And so those would be some examples. So we were never allowed to say I'm a part of the divine. I'm a part of God. I'm a part of the one. That would be there's a part and then there's the whole. Now we could say I'm an aspect of the one. Well, then I had to spend a whole month asking myself, what the hell does that mean? What does it mean to be an aspect of the one? Ooh, man, you want to talk about deep work. But this kind of work drives us deeper. Don't just brush it off as a cerebral exercise. It drives us deeper because our words are simply describing how we imagine life to be. Okay, we're going to go to Ryan, and then we're going to come out here.
So I just had one quick question
Yes.
that came in. It asks, is everything that has manifested in us, in our world, the direct or even indirect effect of a cause? Or are some things experienced as part of the parcel of the law of randomness? Do some things simply occur without the causation that we can't perceive?
Well, I don't know about the law of randomness. I've never heard of the law of randomness. But yes, so the things that the way that we would express this is the law of averages. Once a cause has been set in motion, that cause is going to keep moving, right? So, this classic example is if you put a bunch of balls on a billiard table and the original cause is the cue ball starts to move, and if it's and if it's doing its thing, it's just bouncing around, and then it bounces off a ball, and that ball goes, and then that ball bounces off another ball. And given no new cause, that's going to keep happening. And if there is a little bug in the way of that ball that's been bouncing around and nothing changes, the bug will be squashed. Because when when billiard balls roll over bugs, the bugs are too small and they get squashed, right? So it appears random, but only because nothing has put in a new cause. And so we have lots and lots and lots of outpicturings that appear random that are simply the outpicturing of an underlying cause, the underlying cause, which is an underlying belief. The belief that people get sick, the belief that sickness is inevitable, the belief that, that we have a cause from our insurance companies that X number of people are going to have accidents. Every year, X number of people have accidents. Why do the accidents go down? Why do fatalities go down? because all of a sudden there's a big campaign, click it or ticket. You better wear your seatbelt. And what do they discover? Oh, over a period of time, fatalities have gone down because more people are wearing seatbelts. That is a new cause that has been set in motion. Pretty soon it becomes like my son grew up in a car seat. At first, he didn't like the car seat. Then he got used to the car seat. Now he can't imagine riding in a car without a seatbelt. I, on the other hand, I grew up standing in the front seat with my hands on the dashboard, right? Or roaming around in the back, laying down in the back. I mean, we didn't have the seatbelt, it was like a microphone. That's what a seatbelt was for. And so I had to learn to wear a seatbelt, and I did not like it. And so there were lots of times in that period of time, right, where learning how to wear a seatbelt. So my granddaughter, as far as I know, she, for me, only fussed about putting on a seatbelt, putting on her whole harness in her car seat one time. Why? Because now there is a consciousness that this is just what kids do. Right? When I was putting Jason in it, I didn't grow up in it. I didn't know that I liked it. So of course he picked up on it and he didn't want to sit in it either. Do you see? Now that's the law of averages. People wear seatbelts. Kids are put in car seats, right? And so what appears to be random is the long-term effect of causes that have been set in motion. And so all of that, and some of those causes are biological, right? Our fight or flight, our need to protect ourselves, the biology that we have of viruses and bacteria, these things do cause illness, right? But then we set a new cause in motion. We get medicine. We discover what happens. We get vaccines. We do our spiritual work, and we recognize we don't have to be subject to the law of averages. So our spiritual work sets new causes in motion. Now, did we say, oh, I'm going to get sick and then get sick? No, not necessarily at all. But there's that consciousness in which we as humanity live in that says people get sick and things go wrong, and, you know, politics are always awful and war is inevitable, and all those things that we say, that's what's keeping those causes alive. Do you see? And they just play out. They just play out, and then they hit some. Then that causes that, and then poverty causes crime, and then crime causes people in jail, and then power causes that, and it's just this until new cause is set in motion. That's our work. To look at it and say, no, this is not the spiritual truth. I'm going to set a cause in motion that is spiritually aligned, as opposed to this just out-picturing of the averages, the generic way that life is moving itself forward. So it's a great question. What we don't do is we don't beat ourselves over the head. Why did you cause this cold? Oh my God, I don't believe I caused this thing happening. It's so awful. I'm so awful. No. We just accept that something, right? And we either inquire into it or we simply set a new cause in motion. Simply, I say that simply, that's where all the work is. We do the hard, disciplined work of setting a new cause in motion. All right, there you go.
Good morning, everybody.
Good
This
morning.
is Keenan. I got a simple question this week. Good morning, everybody. This is Keenan. I have a very simple question this week, and
Yes.
it's a very fitting question based on the topic of this week, but there's layers to it.
Always. If
Always.
you're asking the question, I know
There's
that.
layers to it. So you can believe in something. You can have affirmations. You can say this is the truth. You can say words and all these things. But I differentiate experience from those things that are said or those realizations, because I can believe that, and I do believe I'm a small little sliver of this big divine thing. I believed that for years. I'm a very monistic person. It just makes sense to me. But there is a difference between knowing this and experiencing it. To a certain degree, I could say I'm experiencing it right now, right? But there are different levels of consciousness that certain people seek throughout life. They call it theurgy, or ego death, or unity consciousness. These are different levels of experience. And I know you talk about your, practitioner training and in some of the science of mind treatments. When I hear you talk about the treatments, I hear you they're more directed at certain things that are going on in your life. Like you talk about it like, certain things that might be going on in a relationship or raising a child and things of that nature. But specifically to the cause of that experience of unity consciousness or ego death or theurgy, all these things, is that, and here comes the simplicity of it, is there a treatment or is there a path along the way of the science of mind tradition that leads to those experiences of consciousness?
Yeah, spiritual mind treatment. You can do treatment for anything. I've meditated for 45 years, and my deepest experiences of unity consciousness have been walking in the woods and doing spiritual mind treatment. Because every time I do a spiritual mind treatment, I have to do more than say the words. I have to create the internal experience of spiritual truth. That took me years. It is the great work. It is the great work. That's exactly right. And that's why we speak about doing spiritual mind treatment every day. Because every day you have to start out your spiritual mind treatment with some sense of oneness. There is one life, one power, one love in the universe. We say some truths about it. Being is always becoming. There is an infinite guidance and love that is the impulsion for creation. Creation is absolutely guided by wisdom and intelligence. This is the truth about the nature of reality. And if I say that and work to believe it, the words are to describe the experience, right? The words themselves are nothing. They are simply descriptions of the experience. And to seek to experience the words that I am saying. And then to remember that that's everything I've just said about the macrocosm is true about me. I'm sourced from that infinite reality. My being is forever becoming in my life. I am forever creating out of the truth of who I am. The more that I work to experience those things and to sit, for me, a lot of people do spiritual mind treatment and they spend a lot of their time in the third step of treatment where we're talking about how this truth is manifesting in my life. And I can spend that time knowing that because there is this one infinite reality and because I am an aspect of this one infinite reality, I am aware at all times as I walk around on this planet, I am aware of my oneness. I see it in every person I look at. I experience it in every experience. I recognize that everything that is being done is the impulse of love making itself manifest. Every word that I say is guided by divine and infinite intelligence. And as I walk around in my life, I am the presence. And wow, what's the only thing to do at that point? Oh my God, I'm so grateful that that's true. I'm so grateful that I can imagine that I experience that. I am so grateful that I can see that. And because I know that the law is working, I know that the law is continuing to support my growth in consciousness, in the awareness of this reality. And so I'm going to stop doing this treatment right now because I've done the work, I've said the words, I've felt the feeling, and I'm now trusting that as I now step out into my life, that is the consciousness with which I move. I'm so grateful. So it is. I mean, that's essentially a spiritual mind treatment. And it is a spiritual mind treatment. We can do treatment for anything. Because it is the creation of an internal experience of consciousness that we so embody that it must become our lived experience. And we teach this in our classes. We have lots of classes that teach it. We have an e-course that I've written that I think is fabulous on spirituality. It's called Mysticism and Manifestation. Because spiritual mind treatment is the perfect mix of mysticism and manifestation. It reminds us that it's not enough to just have unity consciousness. We have to bring it into our lives, right? It's called Mysticism and Manifestation. It's an e-course that Ryan and I have put together. And it's fabulous, if I do say so myself. And so, and we teach this, it's a spiritual technology that is designed to shift consciousness. It's designed to cause you to stand in the as-me place. Not to me, not oh with me, not please for me, but the as-me place. And you do that every day, day after day after day, and you are carving a whole new reality into consciousness, and you cannot help but to begin to walk around in the world differently. This is why we teach this. This is why we work with it. And remember that when we say we use the words, right, it's not the words. It's what the word describes and what it causes us to experience. And it is the great work. It's the great work. And then out of that, our life pours. Oh, I think I'm going to create something for my child to have this amazing, to do this next thing. Oh, I think it pours out. Oh, I'm called to create a business, to create a nonprofit. Oh, I'm called to grow some beautiful flowers because my neighbors love them. Oh, I'm called to make this, my neighbor makes these mandalas, and they're little blessings for the four of us that live there in our little condos. And then I come out in the morning and it's there because he was called to bless our space, right? And so then what we do is being called out of this knowing. And so we call it manifestation. It's just being, becoming. That's all. We only think we're manifesting something because we think we don't yet have it. It's already here. We're just allowing it to emerge. We're calling it forth. And that's part of the joy of being human, because I might call forth flowers. He calls forth mandalas. I couldn't make one of those mandalas to save my life. Do you know what I mean? They're beautiful and they're symmetrical and they're colorful. And he's colorblind and they're colorful and they work. And I couldn't do that to save my life. That's his gift. My gift is to grow the flowers that everybody talks about when the four of us walk into our condos, right? I do the flowers, he does the mandala. Do you see? Everybody adds a piece. You build a business. You teach a child. You have a coaching session. You're a counselor. You're a businessman. You're a mom. Right? That's what it means to manifest life, to create life, and to do it in alignment with who we have, how we are individualizing life. And it's going to be the way that we do it. Maybe you become a trick rider on a horse, you go into the rodeo, or a scientist, or into space, or do you see? Yeah. Build families and relationships and communities and make a difference in life. Yeah, all of that. Okay, I see that you have the microphone and that you want to ask a question, and Ryan's wrapping me up. Do you have do you have something that you want to just share or ask? Yeah.
I just want to share something.
Please.
As you were talking. I'm Carmen, and recently I was asking for. I was saying I want my power I want my power back from anything that no longer serves me. But a shift came in consciousness, said, like, I was asking as if I didn't have it.
Yes.
And so I changed it to, I have my power back.
Yes.
And so, but that feeling inside of me And then I said the words, and then there was a tension when I said it.
Yes.
But I used to, like, I want my power back, get my power back. And it's like, Carmen, you just say it. You
Yes.
have it
Yes.
already.
Yes.
And so that's what I wanted to say.
I
is
love that. And that's the shift,
That's the
right?
shift.
That's the shift. I have the power, and I'm now walking around in my life with this power. And sometimes I may have to say that a few times to really anchor it in, to really embody it. The whole point is the embodiment. That's where the true, that's where the transformation lies, is in the embodiment.
Yeah, if
Great.
you're wanting it, you're always.
If you're wanting it, you're always wanting it. That's exactly right, because you're in the state of not having. Good. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for your comments and questions. Thanks for joining us. We've got lots of great things going on. We don't have time to talk about them, but please do go out on the events page for the rest of September. We've got classes coming up. We've got all kinds of cool stuff going on, and we'll see you next Sunday. Bye for now.